People who got raised by animals in the wild. Have you ever wondered what happens when a human grows up in the wild, guided not by people, but by animals? From children who learned survival from wolves to those who formed unbreakable bonds with monkeys or dogs, these extraordinary cases blur the line between human and animal instincts. In this video, we'll explore the astonishing lives of 10 individuals raised by animals, uncovering stories that challenge everything we know about human nature. Prepare to be amazed, moved, and left questioning the boundaries of humanity. Oxana Malay. Can you imagine a child growing up among dogs, eating, running, and barking just like them? It sounds like something out of a wild fairy tale, but this was the reality for Oxana Malay, a girl born in 1983 in Kherson Oblast, southern Ukraine. Her tragic yet extraordinary life story has shocked and fascinated people around the world, featured in documentaries, interviews, and countless news articles. When Oxana was born, she was just like any other healthy, normal baby. But her life took a devastating turn when she was only 3 years old. Abandoned by her alcoholic parents and left to fend for herself in the freezing cold, little Oxana found shelter in the unlikeliest place, a dog kennel on her family's farm. That cold, cramped kennel became her home, and the dogs she shared it with became her family. For 6 long years, Oxana lived and survived alongside the dogs. She adapted completely to their way of life, mimicking their behavior. By the time she was discovered by authorities, her transformation was shocking. She walked and ran on all fours, barked, and even ate like the dogs that raised her. She had lost almost all traces of human behavior, unable to speak, use utensils, or interact with people. Those who heard Oxana bark described it as bone-chilling. It wasn't the playful imitation of a child pretending to be a dog. It was raw, aggressive, and entirely animalistic. Her bark sounded like it came straight from a hunting dog, not the mouth of a young girl dressed in a simple t-shirt and shorts. After being rescued, Oxana was placed in a care facility for children with developmental disabilities in Barabol, a rural area in Odessa Oblast. This marked the beginning of a long and difficult journey to rediscover her humanity. Therapists worked tirelessly to help her learn how to walk upright, speak, and interact with others. Over time, she made progress, but her early years left permanent scars. Even as an adult, her speech remains monotone, lacking the natural rhythm and emotion of most people. Despite her efforts to live a normal life, traces of her past still linger. At 22, Oxana had a boyfriend, but the relationship ended abruptly when she demonstrated her ability to bark and run like a dog, skills she had never entirely forgotten. In a 2013 television interview, Oxana opened up about her struggles. She expressed frustration at being labeled the dog girl and said she just wanted to be treated like everyone else. Her greatest wish? To reconnect with her biological mother and have her brothers visit more often. Today, Oxana lives in an adult care facility where she helps run a farm and cares for animals, a role she finds fulfilling and deeply meaningful. While experts doubt she'll ever be able to live completely independently, Oxana's resilience and progress are remarkable. Rochom P'ngieng. In 2007, the world was captivated by the story of Rochom P'ngieng, a Cambodian woman who had gone missing nearly 2 decades earlier and was found living in the jungle. Her years of isolation had transformed her into a jungle woman, but the challenges of returning to human society proved overwhelming, ultimately leading to her inability to adapt. After being reunited with her family, Rochom struggled with basic aspects of reintegration. She could not learn Khmer or P'ngieng, the local languages, and exhibited behaviors more aligned with her life in the wild. She preferred crawling over walking upright, rejected wearing clothing, and often sought ways to return to the forest, the only home she truly knew. Interestingly, her family noted she spent much of her time near the chicken coop, though the reasons for this were unclear. Her sister, Rochom P'ngieng, observed that while Rochom interacted with animals and occasionally played with her nephew, she showed little interest in communicating with people. She doesn't speak to her relatives, but sometimes she'll play with my son, P'ngieng shared. I wish she would talk to us, but she doesn't seem to want to communicate. She understands what we say, but doesn't respond. Despite these challenges, her family reported signs of progress by 2010. However, in May of that year, Rochom vanished once again. Her father, Sal Liu, a local police officer, described how she had quietly slipped away one night. She removed her clothes and ran out of the house without a word, he recounted. Just the day before, she was helping us pick fruit. We believe she returned to the forest, but we couldn't find her anywhere. Her disappearance reignited public fascination, with many dubbing her the Jungle Woman, or the half-human, half-beast girl, due to her untamed behavior and eerie howls in place of speech. Local officials later attributed Rochom's departure to the overwhelming stress and alienation she felt during her reintegration process. Which of these incredible stories surprised you the most, and why? John Ssebunya. The incredible story of John Ssebunya, also known as the Monkey Boy, began on June 21, 1989, in the small village of Bombo, Uganda. Millie Seba, a woman from the village, was out collecting firewood in the forest when she heard an unusual sound, the screeching of monkeys. She thought nothing of it at first, as monkeys often ventured into the village to steal food. But as the screeches grew louder, Millie looked up to see something she couldn't believe. A creature, naked and crawling on a tree branch like a monkey. Behind it was a larger monkey, seemingly the leader, urging the smaller creature to crawl faster. Terrified, Millie dropped her bundle of firewood and ran back to the village. After gathering her thoughts, she recounted the strange sight to others. A few days later, local police arrived to investigate and spoke with Millie. They found her story credible, as villagers from a neighboring area, Kabonge, had reported seeing a similar creature. Millie was certain that the creature was human, but why it lived with monkeys, she could not explain. The discovery of this mysterious monkey man quickly attracted the attention of scientists from around the world. Anthropologists, zoologists, and geneticists from Uganda, France, England, and the US gathered in Bombo to search for the creature. On July 3rd, after days of searching, they spotted the so-called Monkey Boy perched on a tree branch deep in the forest, about 5 kilometers from Bombo. But who was this mysterious child? A week later, the boy, now under the care of Mr. and Mrs. Molly Waswa from a Ugandan orphanage, began to mumble a few words. The name Kabonge stood out most frequently. The Waswas learned that Kabonge was a village about 15 kilometers north of Bombo. In 1985, during violent clashes between the Ugandan government and the rebel Lord's Resistance Army, LRA, Kabonge had been caught in the conflict. Vincent, the boy's father, and his mother were killed, and the young boy, just 4 years old at the time, ran into the forest to escape. For nearly half a year, John Ssebunya struggled to remember what had happened. He eventually recalled how he had run deep into the forest after witnessing his parents' murder. As he hid under a tree, a group of gray-haired monkeys surrounded him, touching his face and hands. A small monkey even bit his toes, causing him to scream. But when the monkeys heard his scream, they quickly retreated up the tree, leaving behind bananas and sweet potatoes. John ate the food, and over the following days, the monkeys began to feed him regularly, throwing food from the fields of nearby villagers. Over time, John learned how to climb trees and communicate with the monkeys. He adapted to their ways of life, sleeping in trees, using their unique language to express emotions, and even helping with their food-stealing operations. After 2 years, John had become fluent in the monkeys' language, able to understand and respond to them fully. When John was eventually found and brought back to human society, he struggled to adapt to life among people. But over time, he made remarkable progress. He fully integrated into Ugandan society, and in 1999, he even participated in the Olympic marathon. By 2003, John was the captain of the Ugandan football team, and he also gained fame as a singer, performing in the UK on 3 occasions. Despite his successful reintegration, traces of his time with the monkeys still remained. Occasionally, John would return to Bombo village, climb trees, and crawl through the forest, calling out to the monkeys as he once had. Amala and Kamala. The case of Kamala and Amala, 2 girls discovered in 1920s India being raised by a she-wolf, remains one of the most compelling and heartbreaking examples of feral children. 8-year-old Kamala and 3-year-old Amala were found living in a wolf den, their lives irrevocably shaped by their animal family. The rescue itself was dramatic. The she-wolf fiercely defended her adopted daughters, attacking those attempting to bring the girls back to human society. This maternal protection, mirroring the fierce defense a human mother would show, tragically ended with the wolf's death. The other wolves responded with mournful howls, a haunting sound that would continue to trigger a visceral reaction in the girls for years to come. Reverend J.A.L. Singh, who discovered the girls, took them to an orphanage, hoping to reintegrate them into human society. However, the task proved monumental. Kamala and Amala's habits were deeply ingrained. They drank milk directly from a container, ate only raw meat, were active only at night, and communicated through wolf-like howls. Amala's death a year later marked a turning point. For the first time, Kamala displayed signs of human emotion, possibly indicating a bond with her sister she hadn't been able to express before. While Kamala eventually learned a few words and walked upright, anxieties often triggered a reversion to crawling on all fours. Reverend Singh's later reflections reveal the profound moral dilemma he faced. His words, that perhaps the girls might have been better left in their wild home, offer a poignant insight into the complexities of intervention and the enduring question of what constitutes a truly humane approach when dealing with such extreme cases of feral childhood. The girls' tragic story underscores the profound impact of early environment on development and highlights the complexities of returning a feral child to human society. Victor of Aveyron. In 1799, reports of a mysterious boy darting through the forests near Saint-Cernin-sur-Rance, France, sparked intrigue. This was Victor, the wild boy of Aveyron, whose untamed existence would puzzle scientists for decades. Captured in January 1800 at age 12, Victor's scars and inability to speak told a story of survival in the wild, possibly for 7 years. Biologist Pierre-Joseph Bonneterre conducted controversial experiments to study him, exposing him to freezing conditions to test his resilience, a trait honed by his harsh forest life. Despite efforts to teach him language and basic skills, Victor struggled to adapt to human society. He eventually lived at the Sourds Muet Institute in Paris, where he spent the rest of his life, passing away at age 40. Victor's story continues to provoke debate, illustrating the profound effects of isolation and the blurred line between humanity and nature. Marina Chapman. Marina Chapman's story is one of survival against unimaginable odds. At just 4 years old, in the chaos of Colombia's civil war La Violencia during the 1950s, she was kidnapped by bandits and later abandoned in the dense jungle. Left alone, Marina's life took an astonishing turn. She was adopted by a group of capuchin monkeys. For 5 years, the monkeys taught her how to forage for fruit, find safe water, climb trees, and avoid predators. When she ate poisonous tamarind leaves, the monkey's leader guided her to a pool to drink and vomit, saving her life. But Marina's ordeal didn't end there. After being discovered by hunters, she was sold to a brothel, enduring abuse and hardship. Escaping the brothel, Marina survived on the streets using the instincts she had learned in the jungle. Eventually, a kind neighbor helped her escape a cruel criminal family, and she found work in Bogotá. Her life turned around when an English family brought her to Bradford, England, where she married microbiologist John Chapman, raised 2 daughters, and built a new life. Marina's daughter Vanessa later pushed her to share her incredible story. Despite the trauma, Marina's resilience and courage have inspired countless people, proving the strength of the human spirit in even the most impossible circumstances. Marcos Rodríguez Pantoja. Marcos Rodríguez Pantoja's story is a compelling blend of survival, adaptation, and the complex relationship between humans and animals. Sold into virtual slavery as a child to tend goats in the remote Sierra Morena mountains of Spain, his life took an unexpected turn when his caretaker died, leaving Marcos alone in the harsh wilderness. Forced to fend for himself, Marcos learned to hunt rabbits, a skill he'd acquired from his former employer. He observed the surrounding animals, learning to distinguish edible plants from poisonous ones, a crucial lesson for his survival. One stormy night, he sought shelter in a cave, sharing it with a litter of wolf cubs. His initial encounter with adult wolves was fraught with danger, but according to Marcos, he eventually established a remarkable relationship with the pack, receiving occasional food and finding a strange acceptance amongst them. His feral existence lasted for years. Eventually, as a teenager, he was discovered and brought back to human society by the authorities. However, his reintegration proved extremely difficult. Even into his 70s, Marcos struggled to adapt to human norms and social interactions, highlighting the profound impact of his years of isolation. His story, later documented in a book, a drama, and a documentary, propelled Marcos to minor celebrity status, and it offers a poignant exploration of human betrayal. Abandoned by his father, left alone in the wilderness, and ultimately struggling to find his place in human society, he found a strange acceptance amongst the animals, a stark contrast to the human rejection he experienced. What do you think these stories teach us about the connection between humans and animals? Sidi Mohamed. Sidi Mohamed's story stands apart from others in this unusual category. Unlike the children abandoned or forced into the wild, Sidi Mohamed, a young boy in North Africa, wandered away from his family, a seemingly innocent act with extraordinary consequences. He encountered a clutch of ostrich eggs, a chance encounter that would dramatically shape his life. Instead of danger, he found companionship. The ostriches hatched, and remarkably, they accepted him as one of their own. For several years, Sidi Mohamed lived among these large birds. He learned to mimic their movements, mastering their distinctive gait and incorporating their foraging techniques into his own survival strategy. He thrived in this unconventional family group, learning to run with the ostriches and locate food in the harsh environment. His existence remained unknown until he was around 12 years old, when ostrich riders discovered him living amongst the birds. He was brought back to his village, a transformation from a child raised in the wild to a member of human society. His story highlights the surprising capacity for interspecies bonding and adaptation, a testament to the resilience and adaptability of humans, even in extraordinary circumstances. Madina. These feral children often reveal heartbreaking stories of neglect and abuse, writes Mariano Chota. Their lives reflect a tragic mix of poverty, addiction, and domestic violence, not wild jungle tales. One such case is Madina, a Russian girl discovered in 2013 after living with dogs from birth to age 3. Sharing their food, playing, and sleeping alongside them, Madina adapted to their behaviors, walking on all fours and barking. Her father abandoned her at birth, and her alcoholic mother neglected her, often too drunk to care as Madina crawled with the dogs in a freezing home. When social workers found her, Madina was naked and wild, yet remarkably, doctors found her physically and mentally healthy despite her traumatic early years. Her story stands as a haunting reminder of the resilience of children, even in the face of unimaginable neglect. Sujit Kumar. Sujit Kumar, Fiji, 1978. At just 8 years old, Sujit Kumar was found wandering a road in Fiji, flapping his arms like a chicken, mimicking their sounds, and eating from a bucket with his mouth. His tragic childhood was marked by unimaginable neglect, locked in a chicken coop by his grandparents after his mother's suicide and father's murder. According to photographer Mary Fullerton Batten, children like Sujit, raised in isolation, face immense challenges reintegrating into society. Their bodies adapt to survival, with animal-like behaviors and underdeveloped motor skills. Sujit's life took a turn when Elizabeth Clayton rescued him. She not only provided him care, but also established a charity home for abandoned children, giving Sujit and others like him a chance at dignity and hope. Ivan Mishukov, Russia, 1998. At just 4 years old, Ivan Mishukov chose life on the streets over his abusive home, forming a remarkable bond with a pack of stray dogs. Sharing food he begged from strangers, Ivan became the leader of the pack, relying on their companionship and warmth to survive Russia's harsh winters. After 2 years, Ivan was taken to an orphanage, but he never forgot the loyalty and care he received from his canine friends. Photographer Mary Fullerton Batten believes stories like Ivan's shed light on the flaws of modern society, showing how even the streets and stray dogs can feel safer than a broken home. "I don't want to exploit these stories for," Fullerton Batten says, "but they make us reflect on the world we've built and the cracks within it." The Wolf Girl of Devil's River. In 1845, a mysterious young girl running on all fours alongside a pack of wolves startled villagers near San Felipe, Mexico, by attacking a herd of goats. A year later, she was seen again, devouring a goat, prompting villagers to capture her. That night, her haunting howls echoed through the village, drawing a pack of gray wolves that seemed intent on rescuing her. In the chaos, the girl escaped, vanishing into the wilderness. In 1852, she was spotted nursing 2 wolf cubs on a sandbar by the river. Leading the cubs into the forest, she disappeared once more, leaving behind a tale of untamed wilderness and a life forever entwined with the wild. Please comment 1 to let me know you'll be watching this video until the end. The Russian Bird Boy. Raised in a room filled with bird cages, a young Russian boy endured a bizarre and isolating existence after his cruel mother treated him as a pet bird. When discovered, he could not speak, but chirped like the birds he lived among. Though physically unharmed, the boy was incapable of normal human interaction. Authorities transferred him to a specialized care center, where psychologists and experts worked to help him recover and reconnect with humanity. Shamdeo, the boy raised by wolves. Discovered in an Indian forest in 1972 at about 4 years old, Shamdeo was found living among wolves. He played with wolf cubs, fed, and even rocked them to sleep. Shamdeo's appearance reflected his wild upbringing: dark skin, sharpened teeth, long curved nails, matted hair, and calluses on his knees, elbows, and palms. He hunted chickens skillfully and displayed an unusual craving for blood. Attempts to reintegrate him into human society were only partially successful. He never learned to speak, communicating instead through limited sign language, Shamdeo passed away in February 1985, leaving behind a haunting tale of survival and a deep connection to the wild. The Goat Boy. The story of the Goat Boy, though lacking specific details, paints a stark picture of deprivation and adaptation. This unnamed child, abandoned by his mother at a very young age, found himself in an unusual environment: a goat pen. The pen became his world, the goats his only companions. Like many children raised in feral conditions, he didn't simply survive, he integrated. He learned their behaviors, mimicking their play, adopting their sleeping patterns, and even embodying their mannerisms. He became, in a sense, one of the flock. His discovery in 2012 by social workers was heartbreaking. He was malnourished, his body bearing the toll of years of neglect and an inadequate diet. More profoundly, he was deeply fearful of humans, his early experiences creating an insurmountable barrier to trust. His rescue marked the beginning of a long, arduous process of rehabilitation, a testament to the lasting effects of early deprivation and the difficult task of reintegrating a child profoundly affected by feral upbringing. Have you ever heard of similar cases that weren't mentioned here? Share them with us in the comments. Cats Save a Toddler. In the heart of Argentina, a remarkable story unfolded, a testament to the surprising capacity for compassion even in the animal kingdom. Police officers, responding to an anonymous tip, made a discovery that would capture hearts worldwide. A 1-year-old toddler, abandoned and alone, was found nestled amongst a group of cats. But this wasn't just a random gathering, it was a scene of unlikely protection. As the officers approached, the cats, far from fleeing, reacted fiercely, hissing and arching their backs, their behavior a clear indication of their protective instincts towards the child. These cats had become his unlikely saviors, keeping him alive throughout a harsh winter. They had provided warmth, licking him to keep him from freezing, and had even brought him small scraps of food, sustaining him through the perilous months. The child, separated from his homeless father, was eventually reunited with him, his life spared by the surprising kindness and maternal instincts of a group of cats. The Dog Boy. The harsh landscape of Chile provided the backdrop for another poignant tale of a child raised by animals. A young boy, abandoned by his mother, found himself alone and vulnerable, his survival depending on his ability to adapt to a challenging environment. He stumbled upon a pack of dogs near a cave, and in a twist of fate, they became his unexpected family. These weren't just animals tolerating his presence. They actively cared for him, forming a bond that defied species. They shared their hunting skills with him, teaching him the vital techniques of finding and securing food. The boy, in turn, integrated fully into the pack. When police eventually found him, the scene was deeply unsettling. His behavior was more canine than human. His instincts and communication mirrored his canine companions. Although he retained some memory of the Spanish language, his overwhelming desire was to return to his dog family, to the only home and family he had ever known. Romulus and Remus. The legend of Romulus and Remus, etched into Roman history, is perhaps the oldest known account of children raised by animals. These twin brothers, heirs to the kingdom of Alba Longa, were victims of a power grab, cast adrift on the Tiber River, seemingly destined for a watery grave. Yet, fate intervened in the form of a she-wolf. According to the legend, the wolf not only spared their lives, but also nurtured them, providing sustenance through her milk, an act of unlikely maternal care. After a period of time spent in the she-wolf's care, shepherds stumbled upon the twins in her den. Rescued from the wild, they were brought into human society. The legend recounts their swift acquisition of language and skills, their remarkable physical prowess and shrewd intelligence, enabling them to gather a following of loyal supporters. Romulus, the elder twin, is credited with the founding of Rome, his leadership laying the foundation for the mighty Roman Empire. What do you think about these extraordinary stories of humans raised by animals? Let us know in the comments if we missed any fascinating cases. If you enjoyed this video, explore more in this series and uncover even more incredible tales. Don't forget to subscribe, share Who Remembers with your friends, and hit that like button to support us. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure.